Did you know that a persistent, unexplained itch in certain specific areas of your body could actually be your body's subtle yet urgent warning about a developing cancer? Most people tend to dismiss a minor itch here or there as simply dry skin or fleeting irritation. However, for older adults, especially those gracefully navigating life over the age of 60, persistent itchiness in very particular locations might signify something far more profound. It could be your body attempting to send you a crucial signal, one that you absolutely cannot afford to ignore. In this pivotal video, we are going to unveil 5 highly specific itchy spots on the body that could serve as silent indicators of cancer, sometimes manifesting months before any other discernible symptom appears. These aren't random, fleeting sensations. Rather, they are distinct patterns that medical professionals have observed repeatedly in patients who were subsequently diagnosed with serious conditions such as lymphoma, pancreatic cancer, and even breast or skin cancer. Stay with me until the very end because we won't merely list body parts. You will gain a deeper understanding of the underlying reason behind each one, comprehend why these particular areas itch, discover the specific cancers they are linked to, and crucially, learn how to differentiate between a temporary skin issue and something genuinely more serious. You will leave this discussion armed with the knowledge of what signs to diligently watch for, what pertinent questions to pose to your doctor, and what decisive action to take if one of these unsettling signs resonates with your experience. Most importantly, this video is not intended to incite panic. Its sole purpose is to empower you to pay acute attention, because the earlier you recognize these quiet, often subtle signs, the greater your opportunity to catch something before it becomes significantly harder to treat. Let's begin. Sign 1. Persistent itching on the lower legs. When older adults begin to experience an unrelenting, persistent itch specifically on their lower legs, particularly the shins and calves, with no accompanying rash, no apparent dryness, and no new soaps or lotions to attribute it to, it can be tempting to simply dismiss it as a natural consequence of aging skin. However, this very precise symptom has quietly emerged in numerous individuals later diagnosed with blood cancers, most notably lymphoma. This isn't the kind of itch that conveniently comes and goes. It lingers, often intensifies markedly at night, and stubbornly refuses to respond to lotions or moisturizers in the way typical dry skin would. The underlying reason for this phenomenon is intrinsically linked to how cancers like Hodgkin's lymphoma subtly impact the immune system. These malignancies originate within the lymphatic system, a vital component of the body's intricate defense and drainage network. As the insidious cancer cells multiply, they release inflammatory chemicals into the bloodstream. One of the most common and perplexing side effects of these circulating chemicals is a deep, almost burning itch that mysteriously settles in the lower limbs. Even though the skin on the surface might appear entirely normal, the delicate nerves beneath are being relentlessly irritated from within. I recall the poignant story of Walter, a spry 75-year-old who candidly shared his experience during a routine cancer awareness event. He explained that his only symptom for nearly 6 months was an uncontrollable, maddening itch on the front of his legs. His primary care physician initially suspected it might be eczema or perhaps an allergic reaction to a new detergent. However, when subsequent blood tests revealed alarmingly abnormal white cell levels and further imaging scans unveiled swollen lymph nodes in his chest, the diagnosis became unequivocally clear: lymphoma. The itch came first, he recounted, a somber note in his voice, long before anything else. This type of anecdotal evidence is not uncommon, and while not every itchy leg unequivocally signals cancer, the crucial difference lies in how the skin responds, or rather, doesn't respond. If there's no visible rash, no recent change in soap, no identifiable bug bites, and the relentless itching has persisted for weeks, it is undeniably time to delve deeper, especially if it's accompanied by other subtle signs like unexplained night sweats, persistent fatigue, or inexplicable weight loss. For older adults, this heightened level of self-awareness becomes particularly vital. As we age, our bodies can become less overt in how they transmit distress signals. Acute pain might not manifest immediately, and internal lumps may be too deeply situated to feel, yet the intricate nerve network still reacts. An itch, particularly a deep, restless, unrelenting itch, is often the very first manifestation of that internal reaction. If you, or someone you deeply care about, has been endlessly scratching their legs each night, applying countless creams with no discernible relief, and quietly wondering why absolutely nothing seems to work, please do not ignore it. Engage in a candid conversation with a medical professional, specifically inquire about blood work, and meticulously describe the pattern of the itch. Because sometimes your body whispers its warnings long before it is forced to shout, and listening intently can make all the profound difference. Sign 2. Itching between the shoulder blades or upper back. There exists a very specific, often perplexing kind of itch that emanates deep within the upper back, precisely between the shoulder blades. This sensation is frequently dismissed or conveniently attributed to poor posture, excessively dry air, or even an irritating old shirt tag. However, for many older adults, persistent itching in this exact concentrated area, particularly when it feels as though it's originating from under the skin, has been unsettlingly linked to pancreatic cancer. And the most perplexing aspect is that this itch often appears months before any noticeable pain or overt digestive symptoms manifest. The connection might seem counterintuitive at first. How could an internal organ as deeply situated as the pancreas possibly cause itchiness all the way up on the back? However, the mechanism is as follows. When pancreatic tumors begin their insidious growth, they can obstruct the delicate bile ducts, those slender tubes responsible for draining bile from the liver into the intestines. When this vital drainage process slows down or becomes entirely blocked, bile salts begin to accumulate progressively in the bloodstream. And one of the very first effects of these excessive bile salts is to irritate nerve endings, often in areas like the back, where the body possesses a dense, intricate network of sensory nerves. I distinctly recall the story of Sarah, a resilient 70-year-old, who described experiencing what she termed a phantom itch on her upper back. She would awaken in the dead of night, incessantly scratching, yet absolutely nothing seemed to alleviate the sensation. Not lotions, not back scratchers, not even changing her mattress. It genuinely felt like it was coming from the inside, she explained with a bewildered look. When she underwent routine blood work for unrelated fatigue, her liver enzymes were unexpectedly found to be elevated. This alarming result prompted further imaging scans, which ultimately revealed a small, insidious tumor in her pancreas, subtly pressing on the bile duct. The terrifying part was that this relentless itch had been her only discernible symptom. No pain, no telltale yellowing of the skin, just a deep, nagging sensation she simply couldn't shake. And the sole reason her condition was caught in its early stages was because she bravely spoke up, even when her complaint felt insignificant. This underscores precisely why that specific area of itching holds such critical importance. General back itchiness can indeed stem from dryness, pressure, or friction, but if the itch is intensely focused, unrelenting, and fails to improve with any conventional skin treatments, especially if you also begin to notice darker urine, unusually pale stools, or persistent, unexplained fatigue, it may very well be a deeper, more serious sign of an internal issue. The back, in such cases, transforms into an unexpected messenger even when the root problem resides deep within the gut. For older adults, these kinds of subtle symptoms are all too easily dismissed. We often hesitate to sound dramatic, but your body possesses a profound wisdom beyond your immediate comprehension, and when it transmits the same signal repeatedly, it is undeniably worth listening, even if that signal is just an itch. Sign 3. Itchy scalp without visible flakes or dandruff. An itchy scalp might not immediately strike you as a significant concern. In fact, for many older adults, it's readily attributed to dry air, naturally aging skin, or perhaps a shampoo that simply doesn't agree with them. However, when the itching becomes persistently unrelenting, especially when there's an absence of visible dandruff, redness, or flaking, it can at times serve as an early, subtle indicator of a deeper underlying issue, including certain blood cancers like leukemia, or even specific skin cancers affecting the scalp. What distinguishes this particular itch is its characteristic sensation. It tends to feel more like a tingling, a subtle crawling, or even a burning sensation rather than mere dryness. It may also inexplicably migrate from one spot to another and often prove stubbornly resistant to typical treatments such as anti-dandruff shampoos or moisturizing scalp oils. For individuals over 60, these peculiar sensations can signify nerve irritation, frequently triggered by abnormal immune activity, a phenomenon that occurs when leukemia cells begin to multiply in the blood and consequently affect how the body regulates inflammation. There was a poignant case of Oliver, a diligent 73-year-old, who mentioned that his scalp had inexplicably begun to itch every single afternoon. He initially tried changing various hair products, then considered that perhaps his hat was the culprit. But even after meticulously switching shampoos and refraining from wearing a hat, the relentless itch persisted. When he eventually underwent a comprehensive blood panel for unrelated fatigue, doctors discovered abnormally high white blood cell counts. A subsequent bone marrow biopsy unequivocally confirmed an early-stage diagnosis of chronic lymphocytic leukemia. His scalp, remarkably, had been the very first and only part of his body actively alerting him to the hidden danger. What makes this particular sign especially crucial is that many older adults already contend with some degree of general dryness or skin sensitivity. Consequently, when something like an itchy scalp begins to feel just normal or an expected part of aging, it is tragically ignored. But what sets cancer itch apart is its profound resistance. No cream seems to help, no product provides soothing relief. It stubbornly lingers, nags persistently, and often feels entirely disconnected from any superficial skin problem. Furthermore, while leukemia isn't the sole concern, skin cancers that develop on the scalp, particularly in areas with thinning hair, can initially manifest as nothing more than a small, persistently itchy patch. Sometimes it might resemble dry skin or a tiny bump, but if it continues to itch, especially in the identical spot, and stubbornly refuses to disappear, it absolutely warrants a thorough examination under proper lighting by a dermatologist. Because the scalp isn't always easy to meticulously examine on your own, it is immensely helpful to request a spouse, a trusted caregiver, or even your hairdresser to regularly check the area for you. If you consistently feel an itch that hasn't budged in weeks and is completely unresponsive to everything you try, that is your unequivocal sign to investigate a little deeper, particularly if you've also been experiencing unusual fatigue, unexplained bruising, or just a general sense of being off in a way you can't quite articulate. It might seem like a small, insignificant thing, but sometimes it's these small, stubborn signals that narrate the most profound and critical stories. 9.4. Localized itching on the chest or breast area. When older adults, particularly women, but also men, observe persistent itching on the chest or breast area, especially around the nipple or just beneath the breast, it can be effortlessly attributed to sweat, a snug garment, or even age, skin thinning. However, this specific location is one of the most frequently overlooked spots where persistent itching may unequivocally signal something far more serious, such as inflammatory breast cancer or other insidious underlying tumors near the chest wall. What renders this particular sign uniquely critical is that it often materializes before any palpable lump becomes discernible. The skin might feel unusually warm, irritated, or noticeably tight, Occasionally, there might be a subtle change in texture, perhaps feeling slightly rougher, noticeably thicker than normal, or exhibiting a reddish tint. But just as often, there is nothing visibly apparent, only a deep, persistent itch that never seems to subside, regardless of what cream or lotion is applied. I vividly recall the account of Eveline, a discerning 69-year-old who noticed an odd, persistent itching sensation concentrated around her right breast. She diligently tried switching bras, experimenting with different laundry detergents, and even went without a bra for extended periods, convinced it was mere friction. Yet, the relentless itching persisted, always in the same precise spot, day after day. When she finally presented for a checkup, her astute doctor noted a very slight skin dimpling and immediately ordered further diagnostic tests. What they ultimately discovered was a small yet aggressively growing tumor located very close to the skin surface, crucially without exhibiting the typical round lump most people expect. This is one of the primary reasons inflammatory breast cancer can be so dangerously insidious. It doesn't always adhere to conventional patterns. It can cunningly mimic a common skin rash. It can spread with alarming rapidity, and its earliest symptom is often not pain, but rather persistent irritation. That's precisely why paying meticulous attention to itching that remains localized, doesn't migrate, fails to respond to moisturizers, and is consistently focused in the identical spot day after day is so absolutely crucial, especially in the breast or chest area. For men, this particular sign can be even more easily missed. Male breast cancer, though relatively rare, does occur and frequently goes undetected because its signs don't align with what most men are conditioned to look for. An inexplicably itchy patch near the nipple, a small area of subtly thickened skin, or a persistent, nagging twinge of discomfort underneath the chest muscle might not sound dramatic, but for someone in their 60, 70s, or 80s, it profoundly warrants a closer examination. Furthermore, this type of itch isn't exclusively about cancer growing within the breast tissue itself. It can also be caused by enlarged lymph nodes situated under the arms or just beneath the collarbone, signaling lymphoma or another nearby malignancy. So, if the itch is accompanied by swelling, warmth, or even just a vague sense of heaviness in the area, do not delay. Early detection doesn't commence with sophisticated machines. It begins with heightened self-awareness, with diligent listening to your body, and with keenly noticing those quiet, seemingly out-of-place patterns. Because your skin cannot speak, but it can undoubtedly signal. And this is one of the most profoundly important signals not to ignore. Sign 5. Persistent itching in the anal or genital area. There are few sensations more intensely uncomfortable and more frequently ignored than persistent itching in the anal or genital region. It is undeniably an awkward and deeply personal subject, especially for older adults, and many individuals would rather endure it in silence than openly discuss it. However, when this particular type of itching becomes chronic, with no obvious underlying cause such as poor hygiene, a known infection, or simple irritation, it may be subtly attempting to draw your attention to something far more serious. In some cases, persistent itching in this highly sensitive area can be a quiet, early symptom of anal, vulvar, or even penile cancer. What renders this specific kind of itch dangerous is its tendency to disguise itself as something minor. People readily assume it's merely dry skin, an allergic reaction to toilet paper, a bit of friction from walking, or even a side effect of incontinence pads. And in many instances, those assumptions are correct. But when the itching lingers for weeks or even months, when it stubbornly returns regardless of how diligently you clean, treat, or moisturize, and when it begins to feel more raw or burning than superficial, it unequivocally demands a closer professional look. There was a gentleman named Thomas, a resilient 76-year-old who had been dealing with what he presumed was simple hemorrhoid irritation for nearly a year. He diligently applied various creams, meticulously changed his diet, and even experimented with cold compresses, Yet the relentless itching never fully subsided. Eventually, a highly specialized colorectal surgeon performed a scope examination and discovered a small, concerning lesion on the wall of his anal canal. It turned out to be an early-stage tumor, something that would have continued its silent, insidious growth had he not followed his profound gut instinct that something simply didn't feel right. The same crucial principle applies equally to women. Vulvar cancer is relatively rare but becomes significantly more common after the age of 60, and one of its earliest and most insidious signs is a recurring, persistent itch on or near the outer genital area. There may be no palpable lump present, but the skin might begin to feel rougher, subtly discolored, or noticeably thinner than usual. Many older women mistakenly assume it's hormonal or related to postmenopausal dryness, and sometimes it is. But if the itching is relentless, if it consistently worsens at night, and if it stubbornly refuses to respond to normal, over-the-counter treatments do not dismiss it. This intimate part of the body is densely packed with nerve endings. It is exquisitely sensitive, and precisely because of that, it frequently signals internal changes long before more overt, visible symptoms emerge. Whether it's a subtle change in skin cells, underlying nerve inflammation, or swelling in nearby lymph nodes, chronic itching in this region, especially when it's strictly on one side or intensely focused in one small spot, can serve as a profound red flag. And yet, most individuals hesitate to voice their concerns. They fear embarrassment, or they worry they are simply overreacting. But silence, in these critical instances, is far more perilous than curiosity. Speaking up about a persistent itch might just lead to crucial early detection, significantly better outcomes, and invaluable peace of mind. The most important takeaway is this: if the itch doesn't go away, do not assume it's normal. Allow a healthcare provider to conduct a thorough examination, because catching something early, even something as serious as cancer, often commences with noticing something small, something subtle, and crucially, choosing not to ignore it. Final thoughts. As we draw this video to a close, I wish to impart one profound, simple truth. Your body is in constant communication with you. Sometimes it articulates its needs through pain, at other times through pervasive fatigue. But often, it begins with something so small, so subtle, that we inadvertently overlook it, like a persistent itch that stubbornly returns to the very same spot. The 5 specific areas we've discussed today, the lower legs, the upper back, the scalp, the chest, and the genital region, are not merely random locations. They are critical anatomical zones where serious internal issues, including certain cancers, often initiate their first quiet signals. And for older adults, cultivating the ability to truly listen to those vital signals could literally mean the difference between catching something in its nascent stages and allowing it to silently grow and advance. You do not need to live in a state of fear. That is unequivocally not the purpose of this video. The profound purpose is to empower you, to remind you that your instincts truly matter and that what appears to be a minor symptom may, in fact, be your body's urgent plea for help. If any of these signs resonated with your experience, do not dismiss them. Bring them to the attention of your doctor. Initiate that crucial conversation. Because you deserve clear answers and you unequivocally deserve peace of mind. Thank you for joining us today. We would deeply appreciate hearing from you. Please take a moment to leave a comment below and share one significant insight you gained today and how you plan to integrate it into your life. Your thoughts and perspectives are immensely important to us, so please do not hesitate to share them. Reading your comments provides us with tremendous motivation and encouragement. If you thoroughly enjoyed this video and found it genuinely helpful, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it with your loved ones. Your unwavering support enables us to continue creating valuable content to inform and inspire you. Thank you for watching, and we eagerly look forward to seeing you in our next video.